So today we're going to start by talking about what is compound interest. Now, compound interest is one of the most important things that's ever come out of mathematics, and it is one of the most powerful tools in mankind in order to make money. Now, this is what compound interest looks like. When we talk about simple interest that we talked about before, think of simple interest as something that does this. It grows very slowly and grows at exactly the same rate forever, right? So think of your money increasing following this line forever. But when you do compound interest, our money soon overtakes our simple interest and explodes to infinity and beyond. So today we're going to do a simple investigation on simple interest, and then you're going to do some practical examples. So now imagine that we have a teacher named Mr. P that goes to a bank and he decides to put $1,000 and he invests for 5 years using simple interest. So we're going to use the concept of what we did before, right? So now you got to remember the following. In the first year, we start with $1,000. Now, remember, our simple interest is calculated like this. We take our $1,000, then our interest is actually calculated by the balance of interest that the calculation is multiplied by, and we're going to multiply it by 5%. Okay? Now, that means that 1,000 times 50 times 5% is 50, right? The end amount is $1,050. Now, by the start of the next year, you're actually sitting with $1,050, but the bank only calculates interest on this column here. So remember, we're always going to end up with $1,000 here, and we're going to end up with another $50, which means that we have a total of $1,100 left in our bank account. But the next year we start with $1,100, right? And we still only get interest on the starting amount of money that we had at the very beginning, and we still get $50, and now we end up with $1,150, and we do this again ad nauseum until we get to our final year. Now remember, the balance for simple interest is always calculated on our initial amount that we put in, never the accumulated amount that we have here. Never. So now, the very next year, on the 5th year, the final year, we start with $1,200. Our balance that so for our balance interest, we're always going to be taking $1,000. That is what simple interest is. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to multiply that by 5%. We get 50, and we end up with $1,250. Now, let me show you mathematically what that means. We've done this calculation before, but you probably didn't realize exactly what we were doing. So remember when we calculated, we said that simple interest was I is equal to PRT, where T is the number of years, P is the amount that we started with, and then to get the total, we added A plus the I to get, no, not the A plus the I, we added the principal plus the interest to get our total amount of money called A. All right, so let me show you what that means mathematically, okay? So, boom. So our calculation for simple interest of 5% is given by this, right? We take I is equal to PRT. 1,000 times 5 divided by 100 gives us $5, right? Sorry, 5 divided by 100 is 5%. And then we multiply by the number of years, which is 550, which is 5. Then we end up with $250. Then the total amount of money is $1,000 plus the $250 that we started with. Isn't that what we got right here in the bottom corner of our calculation? So the total amount of money made in 5 years is $1,250. Now, that is simple interest. So that is what this line looks like in our calculations. Okay? So this is our simple interest. So now, let's go and take a look at this investigation that we have here. So Mr. S is going to have $1,000 and he's going to use compound interest to see for 5 years at 5%, right? Now, how much will he have at the end of 5 years? Well, let me talk to you about how this works. In this case, the compound interest means that 5% is applied to all the money, not just the starting amount. Okay? So now, just like last time, we start with $1,000, right? The balance that we calculate our interest on is actually the money we start with at the beginning of the year. So we're going to put in $1,000. Then we're going to calculate 5%. We're going to do just like we normally did. So take 1,000 times 5%. And that gives us $50, right? So the amount of money that we have at the end of the year still ends up being $1,050, just like before. Now, at the beginning of the next year, we're going to start with $1,050, but this time, instead of only starting with 1,000, we're going to put $1,050, right? Then we're going to take $1,050 and we're going to times it by 5%. And that 5% is going to be 5 divided by 100, whatever you want, or just 5% on your calculator. And you're going to get $52.50. So now we have to add this plus the $52.50 to get $1,102.50. So now, the start of the next year, we start with $1,102.50. And the balance that the interest is calculated on is the amount that we start with at the beginning of the year. Right? So now we're going to take the 1,102.50 and we're going to times that by 5% again. And that's going to equal 55.13. Okay? And we're just going to keep doing that over and over again until we get our final answer. And now we add up those two numbers. So we end up with 1,000. So we're going to add the 55.13 plus the 1,102.50 to get $1,157.63. So the next calculation you're going to do is you're going to start with $1,157.63. Not awesome. So now we're going to start with that money as the interest we're calculating our interest on. So now we're going to take our interest and multiply it by that. We're going to times it by 5%, and we end up with 57.88. Now we add those two numbers, 1,215.51, and now for the 5th year, we start with 1,215.51. We copy that number over, right? Remember, compound interest means we're going to take the 5% and we're always going to apply it to the entire balance, not just the principal. So now we multiply that number through again times 5%, and that gives us 60.78, which gives us a total amount of $1,276.20. The only issue with this type of calculation is that our final answer is this, but our rounding has to be perfect, right? So if you have a calculator that can help you round, use it. If you don't, you need to practice your rounding, okay? And that's all we're doing. So at the end of 5 years, we have Mr. S earning a total of $1,276.29. Now, you'll notice when you go and compare this to what we did before, right? Our number stayed always increased by 50 bucks, right? Because we're always applying the interest not on the total amount, but just on the initial amount of money that we put in. So we always had an increase of 5%, which was 5% of 1,000 is 50, right? So now when we're doing our compound interest calculations for today, you're going to do 2 of them, right? Where I give you 2 problems and you're going to be calculating the compound interest. We're going to calculate the compound interest in one simple interest thing. The final answer in the bottom corner for each of those is going to be here. But for compound interest, remember, the interest is also calculated on all the money that you had at the end of the previous year. So you got to copy that down and then copy it in here, then multiply by the percentage I give you. All right, that's it for the day. Good luck.